All right, welcome. We are doing something a little bit new today. So if you are seeing the coaching misunderstood and saying, wait a minute, Jen usually does those videos alone. I've got something new for you. If you watch my Living a Bold Life guest interview series, you may recognize this face on the screen next to me of Steve Strother. Hello, Steve. Welcome again.
Hi, Jen. Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's
You're
good to be here.
welcome. How you doing today?
Good, doing really well. Thank you.
Good. So y'all, just to give a little context, the coaching misunderstood videos that I do solo, that was an idea I had as a professional coach of 7 years. It's a very unregulated field. There's a lot of different types of coaches, and there's just a lot of people who don't really know what coaching is, and to no fault of anyone's. There's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, right? That's what unregulated means. And so, as a professional coach, I've always been really passionate about advocating for what the field really is about because of how monumental it's been in my own life. And so, my genius branding and marketing person was like, you know what you should do? She was like, a couple of days after your individual, you should have a guest interview where you're talking about the same topic. So, by the time this conversation is out with Steve and I, there will have been a solo version that I did of this just 2 days before. And whatever platform you're watching this on, you can find that there as well. And Steve and I are just going to have a conversation between two coaches. And it's freestyle, y'all. So, it might be based off what he and I have each experienced in our experience with coaching, or it might be what we've seen our clients experience, or maybe just something we've learned or been mentored on. But we're just kind of free flowing. And, Steve is also a coach, and Steve is the founder and coach for men at Finding Men's Peace. Steve has a passion for helping men live better lives in deeper connection with peace, joy, and their own inner strength. Steve helps men connect to their authentic selves through a process of learning and discovering aspects of masculine archetypes, masculine and feminine energies, building inner strength, following joy as a spiritual practice, and more. He does this through group teaching and coaching programs, one-on-one coaching, workshops, and eventually retreats, which we are getting closer to. For men who are curious about how to move out of a place of frustration or overwhelm in their lives, Steve is here to help. And as always, please share this conversation with anyone that you find may be just supported in hearing this. So the conversation we're going to play with today is coaching is a tool to reinvent your relationship to time. So you already heard in my solo video my thoughts on that. So Steve and I are just going to start playing. And Steve, when maybe I invited you into this conversation, or maybe when I share it now, that coaching is a tool to reinvent your relationship to time. As a coach, as a recipient of coaching, is there anything that comes up for you right off the bat when you think of, we're going to have this conversation?
Right. Well, I mean, I think what struck me first is I think you made a post on Instagram on this topic prior to this being an idea for a topic of coaching misunderstood.
Yeah.
And that is what got my attention first, because I'm personally working with a coach right now to help me in that relationship with time, and especially learning how to kind of get outside of the linear concept of everything, and time included. And I guess in some ways, since that time, I've found there are some things that started early on with me when it came to, like, when I was training to become a coach, and some things that I've learned through being coached by others, coaching others also, that really relate, that I didn't really think about so much. But I mean, I think that where I would start is, one thing coaching really can help us with is, I came to coaching. I looked for a coach the first time because I was feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed. and a lot of people who come to coaching for the first time are experiencing that type of thing. And really where coaching helped me first when it came to my relationship with time is it helped me learn how to to really focus on certain key aspects of life. Where so I'm overwhelmed, so why am I overwhelmed, and what is it I can do to kind of figure out where is it I want to focus, where is it I'm trying to go, that type of thing. So it's that helping people who choose to use a coach, helping people find that focus, like, get figure out what it is that is the key thing or the key things in their lives, to help them kind of cut through that overwhelm. And what I've been helping clients with a lot more recently related to that, is helping them maybe either find or reconnect to, and live their purpose. And so, that helps, just being able to do that helps establish, a different connection with time, because again, you're getting through that stress and overwhelm. When you cut through stress and overwhelm, um, that frees up a lot of time by itself, because you are, that stress and overwhelm is generally happening because, when it's happening to me, it's happening because I'm stuck in my head on something.
Okay.
And then, having that focus and realizing what my purpose is helps me get out of my head, because I'm able to make decisions that are aligned to that purpose. I'm not having to overthink all the time. So,
Okay. So just to kind of recap, so it sounds like for you, two ways that coaching has helped you reinvent your relationship to time is it sounds like if I'm hearing this right, it sounds like when you were not completely connected to your focus or your purpose, that time was different for you.
correct. Yeah,
How
exactly.
was time different before you really had that purpose or that focus to hone in on?
Yeah. It Time for me then, when I was stressed and overwhelmed, and not focused on a purpose, or at least disconnected from it, I'd always felt like I never had enough time to get everything done.
Ah, okay.
Right. So yeah.
So you were
So,
in the not enough, and you've probably heard me say this and other things before. That's really the way I was trained. That's what overwhelm means.
mhm,
Overwhelm means that we are experiencing a lack of something, money, time.
yeah.
Those of you in overwhelm might notice you feel a lack of everything, which is really overwhelmed, right? Like you're under resourced in all areas. Okay. So it sounds like once you had support, finding your focus, finding your purpose, maybe you were able to kind of like focus and move toward what you want. So when you cut through the stress, when you cut through the overwhelm, um, it felt like you actually automatically had more time.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, when we are stressed out or overwhelmed and we're trying to find ways to fix that, because we know fixing doesn't really work. Fixing just
Right.
makes the fake problem that we have bigger, right? When most of them aren't real, there's always solutions. So it started to get you into a space of, would you say, enoughness?
Yes. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hmm.
So time, instead of feeling so scarce, like, whoa, I'm so busy. I have all these things to do. I don't have enough time to do them. It started shifting to maybe, oh, now that I'm doing the things that matter, I'm not
Hmm.
quite as busy. And now that I'm not feeling all this overwhelmed, I actually feel like there is more time, like there is more of enoughness.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's interesting, right? Because we know that time is man-made,
Exactly. Right.
and so we know that each of us is going to relate to it based on how we've created our relationship to it.
Hmm. That's right.
So now that you are in a space of, and let's normalize that just because people have coaches and are coaches doesn't mean we slip back into overwhelm. We do. But I
Sure.
think most of what this work is about, like, oh, it's been way longer since I've been there. And I
Right.
know how to get myself back to good
That's right.
faster when I get out, right? We're still
Hmm.
human. So
Absolutely.
we
That's
don't want
so
to
true.
we don't want to put any perfectionist stuff on there.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that because I was actually going to say something like that too. I mean, yeah, you meet new layers of it,
Yeah, yeah,
as you
right, right.
go, things like that. Yeah,
Or particularly if anyone's leveling up,
yeah.
you do start to kind of generate some breakdowns and breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And, the old stuff comes back.
Hmm.
Overwhelm has been a big one that I've worked on personally. And, that the scarcity of time I've also felt from that as well. So I
Yeah.
really resonate with what you shared. And we're also similar, that I'm imagining that anyone listening to this is having some similarities as well. But Steve, when you started noticing, like, wow, when I have a purpose to focus on and I'm able to cut through the stress and cut through the overwhelm, and I feel like there is enough time for the most part. I feel like for the most part it is abundant. What is that made possible in your own life and in your own business to start having that new relationship?
It's made it in my own business, in my life. It's made basically it's just opened things up. So what it's really done is it helps it's helped speed. I mean, this is it. I mean, it has helped speed things up without me feeling like I have to go faster to do it. Does that make sense? I mean, like, um, like what's another way of putting that? But yeah, yeah, this is, I think you were the first person I heard say this, but it's just that slowing down to speed up kind of thing, where what I've realized now that I have been able to, like, focus and reconnect to my purpose. I don't have to, in order to get from point A to point B, I don't have to do it quickly. I don't have to always be in action mode to get there. So in fact, it's actually better. I find that, yeah, I just kind of ease up on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I put some thought into it. I plan, but I don't get stuck in the action, because that, I mean, I've definitely been there before too, in my prior career, especially. Um, so recognizing that it's okay sometimes, and not just sometimes, a lot, to yeah, have that plan, but kind of let some things unfold on their own too. Because a lot of times the best things that come are going to come through just letting the process unfold on its own.
I,
So
I love
yeah.
what you're sharing, particularly because when a lot of people, I think of coaching, they think of, I'm going to hire a coach and they're going to give me all the best strategies on time out there, right? And you and I are not talking about directly working with time.
Mhm.
We're talking about
Right.
indirectly working with it, but the way we're talking is actually more powerful. I tell
Mhm.
everyone all the time, we can work on time strategies, but if you don't have a shift in how you're being and how you relate to time, they will fall flat. Strategy always needs to be partnered with the way of being. It's always numero uno. And so you're sharing, more how I hold coaching, where the being drives the action. And
Mhm.
so what I love is you shared the things that you're up to are moving faster, but it's not because you're moving faster, and it's not because you're in all this frenzied action. And
Right.
listen to this, because Steve is also not saying I just sit on my couch and manifest things. He's not saying that. There
Right.
is planning, there
Mhm.
is intention, there is action, but it's not having to be in action so much to where you're not honoring your biorhythm,
Yep.
to where you feel like oh my God, I'm really ungrounded today, but I'm going to go
Mhm.
reach out to like 50 people. Like, right? Perfect example. I got back from Minnesota after 2 weeks. I got my first vaccine on Monday and I've been really tired. So I've
Mhm.
been just having to say, you know what? You were going to respond to all these messages today. You're actually not. You're going to go a day later. You're going to ask anyone for grace because you're going to lose time by trying to do it all. Right. And that
Right.
might not make sense, but it's kind of like what you mentioned, where what I heard is we're really honoring our biorhythm.
Yeah.
Like we're
Mhm.
doing the action when it feels good to do it. And
Right.
maybe some days the action is, I'm going to rest.
Right. Right. Yeah. I had a personal experience with it today myself. I mean, and so last night I got a couple of things done. Yeah, those the administrative stuff, related to owning a business or life in general, really. And so that was great. I felt good about that. But for some reason this morning, I woke up feeling off. Like, I wasn't in that same space by the time I woke up, and I recognized that. And so yeah, I looked at my schedule and saw what I had coming up, and what I needed to focus on for the day. This was one of those things. This recording this with you, and so I had some time in the morning, and was able to just be for a while and just kind of experience what I was feeling. In the old days, back in my prior career, it was boom, boom, boom. It doesn't matter how you feel, you got to do this. And I put that on myself, but it was also very much coming to me from the culture I was working in too. But again, I chose to absorb that at that time. Now I'm in a different place, and I'm able to choose not to uh, absorb that and fight through it. Instead, I was able to spend some time observing it, feeling where I was at. Um, just kind of really, I did a little meditation while I was observing this, and by the time we started talking prior to this call, I was up even. I was feeling even better than I did last night when I got those things done. So,
Yeah,
but with
I love that. And I kind of love where the conversation just went to, which is why I don't like to put any structure really around this. Cause you and I could have this conversation 10 times. I could have this conversation with 10 different coaches.
right,
I could talk alone 10 times and it could be a hugely different conversation each time. And
hmm
that's the beauty of coaching, I think.
right,
It's just flowing and dancing. But what I also heard from you this time was a little bit of a different snippet of our relationship to time. And what I really heard in what you just shared is you used the present time to just be with what was coming up in that moment.
hmm right,
So
right,
rather than saying, I'm too busy, I don't have time to check in here,
yeah, yeah,
which
right,
what
right,
we know would happen would have been you would have went and got really busy. You would have went through the day feeling like you had no time. You probably would have gotten really stressed out and really like anxious and burnt out, but you didn't. You
yeah,
said, I'm going to stop in this moment and I'm going to use this time to get clear on what matters. And I'm going to use this time to source myself. And
yeah,
so, what I really hear in that is being present,
hmm
not always having to look back or look forward or get it done.
yeah, right, right,
Just by
absolutely.
being present in that moment of time to see what there was to see. I'm betting it probably didn't take you very long to completely reinvent your entire relationship to the pace of your day.
Right. No, it really didn't. Once I made that decision, once I decided, hey, this is where I am, and I'm going to sit with this for a while.
And did you
And,
feel that, Steve, when you woke up, like having a, because I know sometimes I'll do that too. I'll just get a wild hair and I'll be productive at night. And then I'm like, you got things to do like that are on the same vein tomorrow, but you might not feel like it. But I'm like, no, I'm feeling it. I'm going to keep going, right? Because you also don't
mhm,
want to squish your flow. So
yeah.
when you did wake up, did you feel a little bit overwhelmed? Like, there's not enough today. I don't feel like doing all this.
um, yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was definitely some of that. Yeah, for sure.
And then when you
hmm
sat and you just really chose intentionally, maybe deciding to take some things off the plate, maybe rolling them over to tomorrow, and you started to feel the shift. It happened pretty quickly. And how do you feel about the rest of your day now?
I feel great about it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, the rest of my day feels awesome. And yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, really, and what it boils down to is getting to that, really finding that place where you feel okay with sitting and observing what's happening. Um, and that was the biggest trick for me is I mean, specifically today, but really getting to the point where I can have that experience that I had today is realizing, it's okay to slow down right now because I see that I am feeling kind of down right now. And why is that? A lot of times, before I was at a point where I was, eh, when I was at a point where I was back in the day, which wasn't very long ago, where I would have just pushed through that. Um, Before I got to that, when I was, I kind of lost my train of thought on this. Um, so a few years ago, I would have just pushed through it. And even it was more recently than that, probably. But I mean, a few years ago, I was still in my prior career, and I would have felt like, oh, I have to. This is what I have to get done today. I'm going to push through this. Um, so it was a matter of, to get to the point where I could do what I did today, getting comfortable with the thought that no, it's okay to be me, and it's okay to sit with this for right now. And actually realizing, and after it works, after you've done it a few times and it works, then that's when you see the success that you have from it, and it feels a little more comfortable every time because of that. So anyway, I lost my train of thought there. I don't think I quite got to my point, but it'll probably come back up as
Come
we
back, I
talk.
think me too is my guess. And I love that because you can see that in the moment, the permission you gave yourself was permission to shift how you were holding time. It's
Hmm.
okay to slow down.
Right. Yeah.
I think largely, I can't speak for anyone else, but just knowing the science behind the brain, the cave brain,
Hmm.
and all of that, knowing my experience, I know that when I am running around with the thought of I don't have enough time, I don't want to say my intuition is to speed up because that's fear, that's not intuition. My
Hmm.
fear says speed up. And what I notice if I listen to that is I start to get really clumsy and I break things. I may get hurt.
Mm. Right.
Um,
Right.
and so what I start doing now is I stop in the moment and I look in the mirror and I say, time is moving the same way time is always moving.
There you go.
You
Yeah.
are the one who is doing something to it right now, little one. I say little one because I try to talk to my inner child,
Nice.
find about it, right? But when I just say, I a lot of you might know that I teach more restorative yoga. I do it because it's a structure to keep me slowing down and
Hmm.
checking
Right.
in because my life is kind of more like a power yoga class. So I don't want to do that on the mat, right? I want something different.
Right.
So I'm very largely looking at how can I bring my practice off the mat, and I use that. And simply saying it's okay to slow down gives you permission to let time start to move a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think what you do too is in that moment where it might be really uncomfortable, especially if you're newer to this, it will be, y'all. That's okay. Do it anyway. Um, when you say it's okay to slow down, I'm going to slow down right now and I'm going to be with what's here. You're interrupting the story.
Hmm.
And every time we interrupt it, it's like we take some of the power from that story and we move it over to the new one that we're writing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
a lot of times what we'll say is, I'll wait till I have more time to interrupt my shitty story about time.
Right.
No, no.
Yeah.
I get into people's face. I'm like, if you're saying you don't have enough time to even sit and breathe, you are past due on your time and you need to make the time right now. something going to happen.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And Steve, I know for you, when you start moving a little bit too quickly and you lose your presence, you can relate to what I say about accidents and injury and clumsiness, right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
For
you and I,
sure.
and so anyone else, just notice when you're relating to time as that, like what's going on. Because I know for me, things can go off the rails real quick in that department. And so when I notice like things falling off the counter, me getting stuck on cupboards with pockets, I'm like, whoa,
Right.
this
Yes. Yeah.
this is
Exactly.
gonna escalate.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
This is gonna
Yeah.
escalate. You know how this goes.
Yeah. True. True. Yeah, I mean, some recent examples in my life that where it's escalated because yeah, the examples you mentioned, yeah, the things knocking things off counters, dropping things that I'm pulling out of the refrigerator, you know, and but then yeah, things escalate when I don't pay attention to that, and yeah, I do things like um, fall fall when I'm running, fall because I'm slipping in mud because I'm running too fast in a dangerous place or whatever, things like that. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, right? Like as we can see, like we've made time up as men, women, humans, beings. Um, and definitely here on the earth plane, it moves at a different speed than I think other places. We know this, right? I mean, we've got light years, we've got all these other things. We know time moves differently in space, right? We know this.
All
And
right.
what I love about it is in this conversation, we can see how it impacts so many things. And
Mhm.
it's all going to be, and I think anyone listening can find the similarities. But then within that, we're all going to find our own nuances, right? Like some people might say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I kind of get what you mean, but for me, time is like this." So it's all going to depend on, what did we see our mom and dad doing? Um,
Mhm.
how did time feel for us growing up? It was funny. I heard my niece and nephew when they were like 4 saying, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. And I was like, oh, I bet my sister's been saying that. So you can see that. Time can time can hold us back everywhere if we let it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, for sure.
And
Yeah.
so, oh, go ahead.
I was just where I was going before, and then lost the my train of thought. Was that one thing that helps me, and one thing that I work with clients on too when it comes to learning to slow down, to speed up, is when I notice, like I noticed today, or when they notice something similar. But for me today, I noticed that I was just not feeling, I was just feeling off. And it was just going to carry on through the day if I didn't slow down in some way. So, one thing that I do that I did not used to do, and again, I have clients do this too, is to get curious about it. So, why why am I feeling this way? All right, and that helps me slow down because rather than just blowing through it and acting like it's not there, I get and also rather than labeling it somehow, I just get curious. So why am I feeling this way? And that helps me get started anyway. So yeah. And, well, whereas in the past, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. Years ago, I would have again just tried to deal with it. I would have kind of pushed the why and that curiosity aside, um, and wouldn't explore it. And I would try to get through the day,
Mm,
and that a lot of times compounds too. Try to get through the day, like you mentioned. I'll look into this when I have time. I'm too busy right now, but when you do that, more things start happening, and it just starts piling up more and more. And that's really where that's where it can get.
yeah, yeah. What I'm hearing is, your ability now to shift your mindset into one of curiosity about what for all the busyness, what for the powering through, what
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
One,
Yeah.
it interrupts the cycle because you are putting your attention somewhere else. And, very often when we're in that cycle, we feel like we've got to keep going down the rabbit hole, when we can really interrupt that cycle in any place that we say. It just doesn't feel like it. So I love that. And so again, we could have a conversation about this all day. We
Right.
could do this 10 different times. We could talk to 10 different people, and the conversation could go in 10 very different ways, because that's what coaching is about.
Right. That's
It's
right.
meeting wherever you're at. It's dancing, it's flowing. But
Mhm.
what I love about this conversation is there's a few bullet points that I think for anyone who's watching this and they're like, okay, I don't have a coach. I'm not a coach. I don't know if I'm ever going to do that. What can I do? One thing I really heard you say, Steve, that can help create more time is, whether you're getting supported or not, finding that area of focus, finding that purpose,
Mm.
because that's
Right.
going to help us focus on the thing, right? Oftentimes when we get focused, a lot of the stuff we were doing before we stop, we're like, oh, there's 10 things in my life. I don't even need to do it all anymore. So that was one I heard. Again, y'all, whatever is going on, if you are stressed out, if you are tense, if you experience overwhelm, get support to learn how to cut through that, because they are some of the biggest time wasters we can ever experience. It's not an energy rich state. Time comes from energy. So if you are spending time out in stress, most likely you're trying to solve many, many scenarios in your life that you will never ever encounter. Biggest waste of time ever. You're trying to fix
Yeah.
problems that, if you were in the land of solution, wouldn't be considered problems. So there's just lots and lots of magic down that path. We could have 10,000 episodes about that one. Steve, what I also heard you say was, when we are in more of that space of enoughness, we do feel like there's enough of everything, time included.
Mhm.
And that was an opening for you. Um, I love that you've gotten to play with things moving faster without you having to do anything faster. So that's always my invitation, y'all. Like, where can you maybe trade some of your doing for more of your intentional being? Do less, be more intentional.
Right. Nice. Nice.
And
Exactly.
I love the permission to slow down, because that right there starts to interrupt that pathway in the brain in that moment. And I love, love, love and I'm recapping you all, so write this stuff down if you want it, because these are all kinds of hacks. And maybe just take a couple for yourself. Don't focus on all of them. We're just, two coaches who do the work with ourselves and with our clients, and we know the value in it. So we're trying to give you some content on this, and as we let you dispel the coaching myths. But it was also, get curious about your busy. So for you, Steve, just stopping in that moment and saying, what for? What for the
Mhm.
power through? What for the busyness?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And then in the midst of me recapping some of that, did anything else kind of spark? We're kind of getting ready to close down so we can give people a digestible amount of info, but did anything else come up for you as I was recapping, or anything like that, that you're like, oh my gosh, I must say that?
um, yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing I would add, and again, talk about something that could be a whole uh, other conversation, that I've learned through coaching, and other things that I do, is really paying attention to, the signals that we get from the universe. Just being open to the magic, the magical messages from the universe, etc., because those can help me really understand, and see, and get outside of my traditional relationship with time too, because I mean, I guess there's that, you know
Yeah, I love that. And
yeah.
it actually makes me think of, I know for me personally, when I'm out of my flow a little bit, when I was out of town, I wasn't eating like I normally would. I didn't have my bed didn't have a yoga props. So I was very intentional with sourcing my being, but it wasn't what it normally is when I'm here with all my things, right?
Yeah.
And so I noticed my relationship to the world around me changing, including time. And
Hmm.
I was in a lot of action for some things that I'm doing, and feeling like I didn't have enough time, right? And when I really got to a space where I was able to just slow down, I was able to just say, you know what, I'm letting that go. And boom, all kinds of time showed up.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was because I was paying attention to the signals. And when
Hmm.
I was moving too quickly, I couldn't see the signals. So I actually had to slow down, feel like I was a little bit more present to see the signals in that moment of time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Nice. Exactly.
Thank you, Steve, for
Yeah.
a super fun and powerful conversation. So, you all, whether you watch this whole thing or some snippets, there's a lot that you can take and ponder. There's things you can take and practice. And then, of course, if anyone is seeking any support, I'm here with things available. Steve is here with things available. There's lots of different ways that you can partner. So, don't be shy. If you haven't heard by now from our conversation, neither Steve nor I have had our breakthroughs in the area of time by ourselves. And
Yeah.
I quite frankly wouldn't have.
Same.
I needed an individual to interrupt my white knuckles on the steering wheel, control, busy, busy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have interrupted that all by myself.
Right. Right. Same. I know. Exactly.
Yeah, so no shame in that, y'all. Like that's why he and I have coaches. That's why we're here. And
Hmm.
again, this conversation is really just to help shed some light onto what coaching really is. Because I think people might have a very surface-based understanding of what it is, but it's about
Yeah.
more than just like we're going to give you time strategy. As you can see in this conversation, it's a lot of really drilling in to learn, well, what is your personal relationship to time? Okay, that's your wacky story. Now let's reinvent your wacky story. And we all
Yeah.
have one. Time and money. They make people the craziest.
That's right. Right.
Time and money.
Exactly.
And so, again, Steve, I will have all the ways that you can be contacted
Yeah.
down in the bio of wherever anyone is watching this. And y'all feel free to reach out with any feedback, what works for you, if you have any more questions. We are here to serve. And Steve, thank you again for being
Yeah.
my first guest on this new series I'm doing.
Absolutely great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. So thank you.
You are welcome. And you all, this will be weekly. So stay tuned for another one next week. And until then, take good care and keep giving yourself permission to reinvent your relationship to time. You got it going the way it's going. So you get to be the one to undo it. See you all soon.